So many of us struggle with fear, doubt, and control because deep down, we don't fully trust the divine presence guiding our lives. But what if you could release that burden, knowing you're always supported? When you trust completely, peace replaces worry, and clarity replaces confusion. In this video, you will learn why trusting the divine matters and how to surrender step by step so you can finally walk through life with unshakable faith. You are standing at the threshold of a magnificent truth that has been whispered through the ages, yet remains hidden from those who seek it only with their physical eyes. The divine presence is not something you must reach for, struggle toward, or earn through endless striving. It is the very essence of your being, closer to you than your own breath, more intimate than your heartbeat. When you understand this truth deeply, when you allow it to penetrate every fiber of your consciousness, you will discover that trusting the divine presence completely is not an act of faith, but a recognition of what has always been true. The infinite intelligence that guides the stars in their courses, that opens the rose in perfect timing, that orchestrates the symphony of life itself, is the same intelligence that dwells within you, as you, through you. You have been taught to believe that you are separate from this power, that you must petition it from afar, that you must prove yourself worthy of its attention. But I tell you now, with all the authority of one who has witnessed countless transformations, that this separation is the grandest illusion ever perpetrated upon the human mind. The divine presence does not judge you, does not withhold from you, does not test you. It simply is, and you are its perfect expression in this moment, regardless of what appearances might suggest. A woman said to Dr. Joseph Murphy, trembling with fear about her future, convinced that she had somehow fallen out of favor with the divine. She had prayed, she had pleaded, she had bargained, yet her circumstances seemed to worsen. Dr. Murphy asked her a simple question that changed everything. When you breathe, do you trust that the next breath will come? She looked puzzled and replied, "Of course, I don't even think about it." "Exactly," he told her. "And that is how you must learn to trust the divine presence, not as something foreign that might abandon you, but as the very principle of life that sustains you without your conscious effort." This woman had been treating the divine like a capricious landlord who might evict her at any moment, when in truth, the divine presence is the very ground of her being, the canvas upon which her entire existence is painted. You see, trust is not something you manufacture through willpower or positive thinking. True trust emerges naturally when you recognize the unchanging nature of the divine presence. It does not come and go based on your behavior, your thoughts, or your circumstances. It remains constant, like the sun that shines equally on all, though clouds may temporarily obscure its light from your view. The problem is not that the divine presence is unreliable. The problem is that you have been taught to rely on the wrong things, on appearances, on the opinions of others, on the fluctuating conditions of the material world. These things are effects, not causes. They are shadows on the wall, not the light that casts them. When you place your trust in shadows, you will always be disappointed, always anxious, always searching for something more stable. But when you turn your attention to the light itself, to the divine presence that is the source of all phenomena, you find an unshakable foundation for your life. Consider for a moment the miracle of your own existence, the incomprehensible intelligence that formed you from a single cell, that knew how to create your eyes to see, your ears to hear, your heart to beat without your conscious instruction. This same intelligence continues to operate within you at this very moment, managing millions of processes that your conscious mind could never coordinate. If this presence can be trusted to maintain the extraordinary complexity of your physical being, why do you doubt its ability to guide your external affairs? The answer lies in the hypnotic spell of the material world, which constantly suggests that you are alone, that you must figure everything out by yourself, that danger lurks around every corner. This is the voice of fear, not the voice of truth. The divine presence speaks in a different language altogether, the language of peace, of knowing, of quiet certainty that all is well despite appearances to the contrary. A man approached Dr. Joseph Murphy in desperation, having lost his business, his savings, and what he thought was his entire future. He said to Dr. Murphy, "I have prayed every day. I have trusted God, yet everything has been taken from me." Dr. Murphy responded, "Nothing real can be taken from you. What you have lost were temporary forms, but the divine presence within you, the power to create anew, the wisdom to rise again, these remain untouched. Your error is not in trusting the divine presence, but in confusing the divine presence with specific outcomes. The divine does not promise you that particular forms will remain unchanged. It promises you that you have within you the power to create whatever is needed for your highest good. This man had been trusting in things rather than in the source of things. He had been placing his security in external conditions rather than in the eternal principle that creates all conditions. When he shifted his trust from the visible to the invisible, from the temporary to the eternal, his entire life transformed. Within 6 months, he had not only recovered but had created something far greater than what he had lost. You must understand that the divine presence operates according to principle, not according to your personal preferences or timelines. Just as water always seeks its own level, just as seeds always grow according to their nature, the divine presence always moves toward greater expression, greater good, greater fulfillment of its own nature, which is your nature. When you trust this completely, you stop trying to force specific outcomes and instead align yourself with the natural flow of divine unfoldment. This does not mean becoming passive or indifferent to life. On the contrary, it means becoming so attuned to the divine presence that you act from inspiration rather than desperation, from knowing rather than hoping, from love rather than fear. You become like a skilled sailor who works with the wind rather than against it, who uses the very forces of nature to reach the desired destination. The scriptures tell us, "Be still and know that I am God," yet how many truly understand what this stillness means? It is not merely the absence of physical movement or even the quieting of mental chatter, though these may be helpful practices. True stillness is the complete cessation of resistance to the divine presence, the total surrender of the ego's need to control, manipulate, and direct the course of events. In this stillness, you discover that the divine presence has been waiting for you all along, not in some distant heaven, but in the very center of your being, in what the mystics have called the secret place of the Most High. When you enter this secret place through complete trust, you find that all the powers of the universe are at your disposal, not for ego gratification, but for the fulfillment of your true purpose. A woman told Dr. Joseph Murphy she had been practicing meditation for years, yet she still felt disconnected from the divine presence. Dr. Murphy asked her, "When you meditate, what are you seeking?" She replied, "I am seeking God, seeking peace, seeking answers. There is your problem." Dr. Murphy explained, "You cannot seek what you already have. The very act of seeking implies separation, implies that the divine is somewhere other than where you are. Stop seeking and start recognizing. Stop reaching and start receiving. The divine presence is not hiding from you. You are hiding from it behind the veil of your own seeking. This is the paradox that confounds the intellect but liberates the soul. You must stop trying to trust in order to trust completely. As long as you are making an effort to trust, you are actually expressing doubt. True trust is as natural as a child sleeping in its mother's arms, unaware of any possibility of being dropped. The child does not trust through effort but through innocence, through the absence of any concept of distrust. You must return to this innocence, not through ignorance but through wisdom, not through blindness but through clear seeing of the divine presence that permeates all things. Look at nature and observe how everything trusts completely in the divine presence without any conscious thought about it. The bird does not worry about whether it will be able to fly tomorrow. It simply spreads its wings when the impulse arises. The flower does not concern itself with whether it is worthy to bloom. It simply opens to the sun when its time comes. Only the human being, with the gift and curse of self-consciousness, creates the problem of trust where no problem exists. You have been given the power to choose, and with that power comes the possibility of choosing doubt, choosing fear, choosing separation. But you can just as easily choose trust, choose love, choose unity with the divine presence. The choice is always yours, in every moment, regardless of circumstances. Let me share with you a profound truth that will revolutionize your understanding of trust. The divine presence does not respond to your needs, but to your consciousness. This is why two people in identical circumstances can have completely different experiences. One thrives while the other struggles. One finds doors opening while the other faces only walls. The difference is not in the divine presence, which remains constant and impartial, but in the consciousness through which each person relates to that presence. When you say, "I need help," you are affirming lack, affirming separation, affirming that the divine presence is not already fully present and active in your life. But when you say, "I am grateful for the perfect resolution that is already unfolding," you align yourself with the truth of divine completeness. This is not mere positive thinking or self-deception. This is recognition of spiritual reality that transcends physical appearances. A businessman came to Dr. Joseph Murphy, anxious about an important decision that could affect his entire future. He had prayed for guidance, had asked for signs, had consulted with advisors, yet remained paralyzed with uncertainty. Dr. Murphy told him, "You are looking in the wrong direction. Stop asking the divine presence what you should do and start asking what the divine presence is already doing through you." The very fact that this opportunity has appeared in your life means that the divine presence is already at work. Your job is not to figure out the right decision, but to align yourself so completely with the divine presence that the right action flows naturally from that alignment. The man protested, "But how can I know if I'm truly aligned?" Dr. Murphy responded, "You will know by the presence of peace. When you are truly aligned with the divine presence, there is a peace that passeth understanding, even in the midst of uncertainty. This peace is not the absence of challenge, but the presence of knowing that you are one with the power that creates worlds. The divine presence speaks to you constantly through intuition, through synchronicity, through the subtle feelings that arise when you quiet the noise of the analytical mind. But you have been trained to ignore these communications, to trust only what you can see, measure, and control. This is like trying to navigate by streetlights when the stars are available to guide you. The streetlights may show you the immediate path, but only the stars can show you your true direction. Trust requires you to develop a new organ of perception, what the ancients called the eye of the soul, or the heart of understanding. This is not something you must create. It is something you must uncover, like removing layers of paint to reveal the masterpiece beneath. Every doubt you have entertained, every fear you have harbored, every limiting belief you have accepted has added another layer of paint, obscuring your natural ability to perceive and trust the divine presence. The divine presence operates through what I call the law of assumption. Whatever you assume to be true about your relationship with the divine presence becomes true in your experience. If you assume that the divine presence is distant, demanding, and difficult to please, that will be your experience. If you assume that the divine presence is intimate, loving, and constantly seeking to bless you, that too will be your experience. The divine presence itself never changes, only your assumption about it changes, and that assumption determines everything. Consider the story of the prodigal son, which is really the story of every soul's journey. The son assumes he must leave his father's house to find fulfillment, assumes he has lost his inheritance through his mistakes, assumes he must return as a servant rather than a son. But the father, representing the divine presence, never changed his attitude toward the son. The love remained constant, the inheritance remained available, the relationship remained intact. Only the son's assumption created the experience of separation and struggle. You are living in the far country of doubt and fear, only because you assume that is where you belong. You assume that your mistakes have separated you from the divine presence, that your unworthiness has disqualified you from divine favor, that your circumstances prove the absence of divine care. But I tell you that these assumptions are lies you tell yourself, stories you have inherited from generations of fearful thinking. The divine presence has never left you, never judged you, never withheld from you. Like the father in the parable, it watches for your return, not to a physical place but to a state of consciousness, to the recognition of who you really are. A woman wrote to Dr. Joseph Murphy saying she had done terrible things in her past, and could not forgive herself, could not believe that the divine presence could forgive her. Dr. Murphy wrote back, "The divine presence does not forgive you because the divine presence never condemned you." Forgiveness implies that there was a moment when divine love was withdrawn, but this is impossible. Divine love is not an emotion that comes and goes, but a principle that remains constant, like mathematics or music. 2 + 2 = 4, whether you believe it or not, whether you are good or bad, whether you are awake or asleep. Similarly, the divine presence loves you, sustains you, seeks to express through you, regardless of your behavior or beliefs. Your task is not to earn this love, but to accept it, not to deserve this presence, but to embody it. When you truly understand this, trust becomes inevitable. How can you not trust that which has never failed you, even when you thought you were failing? How can you not rely upon that which has sustained you through every crisis, every dark night, every moment of despair? The divine presence has brought you this far, and it will not abandon you now. There is a secret teaching that few understand, though it has been hidden in plain sight throughout all scripture and spiritual literature. The divine presence trusts you completely. This may shock you, may seem like blasphemy to minds conditioned by centuries of religious conditioning that emphasizes human unworthiness. But consider this carefully. The divine presence has entrusted you with free will, with creative power, with the ability to choose your own experience. Would it grant such tremendous power to beings it did not trust? You have been given the same creative power that forms galaxies and grows forests, though you use it unconsciously, creating through default rather than design, through fear rather than love. The divine presence trusts you so completely that it allows you to use this power, even to create experiences of separation, limitation, and suffering. It does not intervene, does not override your choices, does not force you to accept your good. This is the ultimate expression of trust. The divine presence trusts you to eventually remember who you are, to eventually choose love over fear, to eventually return to conscious union with your source. A man argued with Dr. Joseph Murphy, saying, "If God trusts me, why does my life not work? Why do I fail repeatedly? Why do I suffer?" Dr. Murphy answered, "Your suffering is not evidence that the divine presence has abandoned you, but evidence that you have abandoned yourself. You are like a prince who has forgotten his royalty and lives as a beggar. The kingdom remains yours, the power remains yours, the inheritance remains yours, but you must claim it through recognition, not through struggle. The divine presence trusts you enough to let you learn through experience, to discover truth through contrast, to appreciate light through experiencing darkness. This is not punishment but education, not abandonment but supreme confidence in your ultimate awakening. Every challenge you face is an opportunity to discover your divine nature. Every problem is a gift wrapped in strange paper. Every limitation is an invitation to transcend. When you begin to see your life from this perspective, trust becomes not something you must develop, but something you simply recognize as already present. You realize that you have been held in divine trust all along, carried by invisible hands through every storm, guided by infinite wisdom, even when you thought you were lost. The very fact that you are seeking to trust the divine presence more completely is evidence that the divine presence is already working within you, calling you to a higher recognition, preparing you for a greater revelation of your true nature.